Okay, that's good. Yeah, tell her, stamp it, that's it. No.
Well, that's great.
You want people like that. Yes, ma'am. I have my copy that's marked up. Okay. I'm sorry, say again. Oh, no, ma'am, I have it. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Okay, I'm going to call this budget hearing to order for the Water and Sewer Department. I don't know who wants to start, but
I'll
it's the
start.
administration. Go ahead.
Looks like we're starting with the water system. And the water fund is, I think most of the issues council's heard about before. Their budget isn't really changing that much. The big issue with water, of course, has to do with what should be the water rates and what are we going to do long term, because the water rates haven't been touched for 10 years, and at some point we're going to have to do something. We haven't proposed to do anything in FY 2025, but we are going to be looking at doing a water rate study, because at some point we're going to have to look at what our options are. There are a number of capital projects that they'll be undertaking, which I'll let Mr. Miller speak to. And the overall staffing really hasn't changed from one year to the next. And with that, I'll turn over to Mr. Miller and let him talk about his plans.
So, Councilwoman, there are some vacancies that need to be filled, in addition to some initiatives that will need new staffing. I believe you are familiar with the ACO and the new staffing that will be required per the ACO. I have some information on that later on, if you want to discuss that later on. But we plan to fill some of these critical staff needs. For example, the assistant supervisor position for the Water Service Center, and a person to do SCADA over at the water treatment plant. So there are some critical needs that I'm sure the staff over at the Water Service Center can speak to as far as their staffing shortfall, and I'll allow them to speak on that. Would you like me to continue? So, for example, I want to point out the professional services that are going to be needed on the sewer side. That is a as-needed contingency to cover shortfall. There are some tasks that need to be covered that we don't have staffing for, so we would bring in some contractual help to take care of that. There are some gaps in our MS4 response. We will be bringing on an entire MS4 team. So what MS4 is of course, the majority of the stormwater that comes from that flows to the catch basins in the street flow over to the river. So MS4 is a permit that we keep with Eagle and the EPA to keep this storm water as clean as possible. And when there are spills, that MS4 team responds and records and reports back to Eagle and to the EPA. And so we're going to bring on an entire team for that. That's, of course, because we're close to the end of the fiscal year 24, that's going to roll into the fiscal year 25 budget.
So I have a question, the GM spill.
Yes.
I didn't see it when we were at the water board. I mean, thank you for attending that with your team.
Yes.
I mean, I think it was important because it provided transparency to the community and for people to take back good information, to have everyone, including Eagle, in that room. So the GM spill that was done, when did that happen?
Last Saturday, I believe.
Last Friday?
Last Friday.
Okay. And what was, they were saying it was some PFAS.
It wasn't PFAS, that's why I strike that, I said strike that.
Okay.
Don't quote me. It was some type of, yeah, right, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
They contained that entire spill.
Yeah, he did.
And how much was it?
They didn't tell us how much it was.
Are they required to let the city, they're within the, it was at the GM assembly, right?
Yes.
Are they required to tell us that, or just Eagle? Because she looked a little bothered in that meeting when, we start, those questions were being asked. And does it affect the neighborhood adjacent to it? You got the berry patch, you have a whole residential neighborhood right there. Right there, I mean, you have a huge residential, Nethercutt, that area. So is it possible, Mr. Miller, that you could send to all of the council people something in regards to what happened? I know GM, they're still out there. I believe those trucks, and they've had the tankers.
What they're doing is they're factoring all the fault. So what they have booms, what we call booms that stop anything going downstream, I'm sorry. So it holds everything in place, and that's why you keep seeing the trucks, so they keep
Yeah.
factoring out all the fault.
So how far downstream did it go into the river? It didn't?
No.
Okay, and see, and that's, if we could get something high, Jeanette Best, right? And I just seen some of the, I remember her name in between, Yolanda. Yep. But Sharon, okay. That's why if we, like, when we have spills, if people could send something out, we didn't get anything, so without us guessing, if this department, Mr. Miller, would give us something so that we could share it, or even a press release, so there could be good information, so that people won't put out misinformation. And that it was contained, it did not, because it was stated, people thought it went into the river, but it did not go into the river. But there's no way of asking, if we don't know. That's why I'm asking the questions.
A press release does go out, that's part of the protocol.
I couldn't find it.
No?
Yeah, and I'm gonna tell you, and Ron Funger called me, so, I don't think he got it, and I told him, I said, you need to contact the department heads. I didn't have that.
Okay, we'll
Yeah, and
figure
so-
out where the gaps are in
Yeah,
that.
yeah, and we can talk about that later.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead. I just want to stop there because that is a recent spiel. I know you're saying you're gonna hire a team of people. And look, thank you for the organizational chart.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. And so yeah, that team, because Mr. Mitchell's team is stretched to capacity right now.
How many does
So-
he have?
On the sewer side?
Let's get that information when we get to there. Let's just keep going, and then we'll get that information
No,
as we
Judy, I don't
get
want to
to it.
do that because
But
that's
I
not.
do,
but
and I'm
this
the
is-
chair.
These are my questions.
That's fine.
This
When-
is not
when
a
I will-
this is not a normal
I-
meeting.
We are
don't abide by
listening.
that.
We are going,
Excuse me.
excuse me, I am the
No,
chair.
excuse you.
I
Excuse
am
you.
the chair. Go ahead, please.
If you, see, this is where you have to be respectful. We had a spiel, and as Candace is stating over here, she said firefighter was PFAS, and people are talking.
I let you
Let-
ask,
now,
I allowed the question for the spill because I felt it was important.
allow the question,
but-
he's talking about the team. He just stated, it's the part, where we were at, let me be clear. He stated he was hiring a team.
Let me be clear and let them go through their spiel, and then we can ask our questions. Let the departments discuss what they want to bring forward, and then we can ask questions. You were the first one here. You will be the first one to have the opportunity to speak as per my usual. Go ahead.
All right. In addition to the personal services contract, there is a contract that we are in the midst of for work order management. It's called, the work order management system is called CityWorks. So there are some dollars allocated for that. That program, this is the start of that program with the Water Services Center. It is our hopes within DPW to spread that program throughout city services. It is an awesome program that helps keep track of the work that's being done, keeps track of the ticketing system. You can run reports. Ms. Priestley is the point person on that. Priest, I'm sorry. I'm
Priestley
sorry,
is
Miss-
me.
Yeah,
And it's like,
Priestley is you, okay. So you're not the point person on
My
that,
last
right?
name has an L-E-Y at the
Okay,
end.
Ms. Priestley. All right. We have some compliance and permit fees, as I spoke about, the Eagle and EPA, MS4 team. We know we have to pay fees to keep licensing up. We have several individuals at the Water Service Center and at the water treatment plant that are licensed, and we need to keep those licenses up. So we pay for licensing for our people when they pass the tests. Scott, is there anything that you wanted to bring out?
No, I don't have anything.
No. Okay. So if you would like to move over to the ACO, the capital projects that that Eagle has told us need to be remediated, I can do that right now.
I would, before I was so rudely interrupted, and as you were thumbing through, it is traditional, and if you're going along, we can ask while you're at that point, and it doesn't make it as difficult as you're thumbing through. Because I want you to eat that separately. You did just mention about the, they pay for the licensing. How much licensing do you pay for a year, or do you have budgeted for that?
I'll have to get you that information.
Mr. Moore may know. I don't know if he could find it before we leave. He's really good at getting back with us. Also, with your department, does it, you're talking about the staffing, is there any program that the city, or is any program that any college or university has to get people, like the extra schooling that is offered, that, we can give, the city can offer? Because we talked about having staffing, and you have got severe staffing issues. You've had severe staffing issues before you were here. And I think that department has been operating probably at 50%, even when Rob Benzick was here. So it's been pretty low staff, or hard to retain. I would like to see, I don't know, and I had spoken with you, what they did with the police and the fire department, offer a hiring incentive with ARPA funds and maybe a 3-year contract, because that way you're not losing the people, but you're getting the people who can come gain a skill and work, which I think is great. And I don't know, are you working, you're talking about building your capacity, are you working with Michigan Works?
I am familiar with Michigan Works in my last position in the city of Detroit, so I would love to work with them here in the city of Flint. I haven't gotten that far yet. I was surprised, I guess, to see an office not far from here when I was driving through the city. So that is an opportunity to fill some of these vacant positions. I think in our conversation, or at the Water Advisory Council meeting yesterday, we discussed that it is imperative to even teach young people how to work, right?
Yeah.
There are gaps there, whereas there weren't 30 years ago when I started my career. I knew how to work already because I was raised in that environment. And so that is something that we need to invest in, and I'm going to look into that.
Yeah, and it seems it's just a consistent, it's an ongoing issue. And I know we were talking, because you were saying people will want to make $28, but you may be offering $22, but they don't see the value of a benefit package. And I think if we can offset that with like a signing bonus, and that can be done. I know they did it with ARPA funds. I think that's a good use of ARPA funds, and also to help your department to be in compliance. They did, like I said, with the fire and police department, and it helped, to fill those vacancies. You said City Works. What is City Works?
So,
And I think, was it Ms. Priest?
Ms. Priest, yeah.
Ms.
yeah,
Priest?
yeah.
And you mentioned City Works, and what is City
I'm a
Works?
huge advocate of City Works.
I don't know what City Works is.
So, City Works is a web-based work order system. The teams use electronic devices to capture the information out in the field.
Okay.
Not only capture information out in the field, take pictures, record inspections, and can move the work orders all over the place to the person that it needs to go to. It
Do
doesn't
we have that now?
We have that, yes, ma'am.
Has it been utilized?
We are utilizing it currently with the Water Services Center. It is being expanded
Okay.
under Ms. Priest.
Okay, so she's working on expanding that, and what are the expansions that she's doing?
Well, right now, CityWorks was originally mandated to be purchased through the SAW grant for specifically the sewer department. So we've actually had it for a little while, so sewer has been utilizing it. But there's different modules you can add on for different departments. So right now, we're in the middle of an upgrade, which actually is gonna take them till probably sometime next month. And then once the upgrade's done, we'll really be gearing it up for the sewer department first, because that's what it was originally intended for. Then it will go to the water department on Paul's side. And then Kenneth had talked about wanting to add light to it, some street maintenance, possibly the water plant on some of their,
Will it be a system like, almost like BSA, but will other departments be able to see it? Okay,
It's actually pretty much just like BS.
Okay.
There's different modules people will have access to, and they'll be, their little part of it will be just unique to that department. Like if it's blight, it will only apply to blight. So when Arnold's using that, his portion that he's using will just be whatever he needs. So at that time, we'll have to get it set up for specifically what he wants, any forms that he wants in there, however he wants it. And then, I'm actually working with DLC also with that. So they are helping me implement some of the forms because I'm not in tech, so.
and I think that's good. I like to hear that, because I think City of Flint has been so antiquated with its systems and their procedures, very antiquated. Mr. Mitchell, not you, our.
It's Miller.
No, I'm not,
Oh, oh,
I'm not
Sorry.
speaking to Mr. Miller. I know his name, Kenneth Miller. I'm speaking to Mr. Mitchell.
Oh,
Mr. Mitchell, your department, how many do you have currently staffed?
20.
And how many do you need?
20.
I'm sorry. Whatever they're saying over there is not being picked up on microphones. Nobody will be able to hear. You know, the public.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and,
If you're talking, they'll have to get a microphone.
because we were looking at water, let's finish water before we go on to sewer, do them as separate, because they are separate funds, enterprise funds.
Yep.
And, let's do that and continue, and then we can switch people over to the
Yeah,
microphones.
hold on, Judy, because the director, the head of department got into the sewer with Mr. Mitchell. And so as I took my notes, as you took it over again, I wanted to just ask him, and those are simple questions, while I have my time.
And
He
you
mentioned this.
You will get your time back. You will get your.
Okay, you're doing this crazy. Look, he mentioned the sewer, he mentioned Mr. Mitchell's department. Now you don't want to talk about Mr. Mitchell's department when it's my time. He was up there just to answer some questions. He needed 20, he needed 20 more, and then you stopped it. I don't know what this control thing is with you. Budget is a free process. Or do you have a schedule where you say budget is supposed to go? Because I've ran budget before.
Yeah, and.
Where's it at?
I said, yes, you've run the budget.
But I think we have to if he's mentioned sewer already, we need to go ahead, and that was the director, he got into that, and he said it was complete. Mr. Mitchell?
Yes, ma'am.
You need 20 more people.
No, I was melting.
You would like 20
I
more?
would- if-
Okay.
yeah, in a perfect world, 20 would be, but no, probably if I had to be pretty accurate with you, another 6 people would be beautiful. 6 more people.
Okay, and so you have 20, how many are part-time?
None. None.
None, oh, that's all full-time?
Yes, ma'am, all full-time.
Because I know you're busy, and if it rains,
Yes,
new
Yes.
problems pop up in the system.
yes, ma'am. And what happens is by us, the MS4, which you guys are speaking about, that's where the other people that I'm trying to get are very vital.
What's your starting rate?
20,
1921? What is the average, do you know what the average starting rate is, like our other municipalities about this size, do we know? We don't, was there a wage study done?
I'm not aware of one.
No wage study? So maybe we can, I mean, because if you're,
Not for the trainees that come in, they just approved one for the senior operators. But, when they come in, that's a training series, so they're actually only at that rate for a year, and they move up. Like, I think it's like $2 more an hour, and then they move up again a year after that.
okay, so they come in at 1921, and then after training, they go up $2 more?
Yes.
And is that a full benefits package?
but the biggest thing with us is the CDL.
That's with all departments, it seemed like, because,
Yes, and it's so much more
oh,
expensive now than it used
Yolanda's
to.
right behind you.
I just want to add in as to when you were asking about the rates. Most of the trainees don't start in at the first year rate. We start them in at a discretionary rate, generally between the 3rd, 4th, or 5th year to attract.
What's the discretionary rate?
Well, I won't say the minimum wage, but the lowest paying rate for the city of Flint is $17 an hour.
Okay.
The unions negotiated that, so once upon a time, the lowest level could have been
Like
a level
12.
7. They started at $10.20. People start off at $17 an hour here.
Okay, so that's considerably higher. Thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Mitchell.
Oh, you okay?
She added some valuable
Oh, yes,
information in.
I agree.
So how much overtime is done in your department?
Quite a bit, it's quite a bit.
And that's what I would figure, because you're busy, and if it rains heavy, you're running around.
Yes.
When it's, yeah.
Yes,
And so, and that's a full benefit that they get?
yes,
Okay,
yes.
okay. That's all because I know what your department does, because I talk with you. And I appreciate the transparency that, you give, and you're available to customers. So, that's my that's it for me, for you. The ACO.
Oh, let me leave.
Yeah. I did give a heads up at the water advisory, because the ACO is something that I don't, how are we gonna pay for it? That was my biggest, because we were given an option that, you know, we can vote on it, but if we don't vote on it, it's still going to, the state's gonna take it over. What does that mean? I guess, Mr. Moore, so we can
I can
clarify,
answer
what
some
does it
basic
mean?
questions, but the details, Mr. Miller will have to answer. If the state gives us an opportunity to sort of negotiate the ACO, but the bottom line is all the power's with them.
Right,
And they, if we don't agree with what they want, they have the ability to mandate that we implement it. In which case, we don't have as much say as how we do it, some of the details about it. But with the agreement, we get to have some say.
so with the one that we have, which, it was difficult to get released, I mean, they're asking for quite a bit, so if we start on, mine is not numbered, unless I put, doesn't print with a number, and so, what I'm really concerned with, there's stipulations, which will be, is it your first page,
No, it's actually
your second?
I would say
It says stipulations, and so if we start here with going,
the third or fourth, the fourth page.
okay, that is, see, I'm on the, mine would be, where it says your stipulations.
Oh, the stipulations.
Yep, right
Okay.
under, yep, that's gonna be on your first page.
Okay.
Should be down at the bottom.
Okay.
And, you know, is that they're stipulating. So when we look at all of these, if we went over every single one, we'd be here for about a week. I mean, we really would. And I have actually read my ACO, and I did notes on it. So if we could just take, if you could, like, for each finding, if we could just, if you could put like where we at, like for each finding, because we won't have enough time here today. So like it states on 1.1, the SDA includes requirements for the following safe public drinking water. 1.2, if it requires something that's not complete, and could you just put like what it is, like, you know, how do we complete it? You know, 1.2, the city owns and operates type 1. You know, if we can speak to, actually go over to the findings part,
Yeah, so.
which would be, I think, maybe my third page.
So, yes, it's my third page as well.
Okay.
Where I was going to go to this, okay, so no, I'm gonna go where you wanna go. The findings in the sanitary survey, correct? Okay, so for me, that is, the page 4, which is compliance, these compliance issues.
Okay.
You take a look at that. So, you know, after our meeting the other day, Scott and I were very concerned as well, and because those fines were interesting, and I hadn't read that part of the ACO. So what Scott and I decided to do was sit down and figure out where we were with all these different items. If you are all right with it, I would like to start with a little data that I put together before we go one by one.
Yeah, I am completely all right with it, because I'm completely, yes.
Oh, okay. What we found is the compliance items were 15 items total. Now, some of the 15 have, yes, ma'am.
I like to take notes, I'm sorry. 15, I'm sorry.
No,
Okay.
you're good. I'm gonna wait for you.
I'm good.
All right, 15 items total. Now, of the 15, some of them have multiple tasks, but they're so similar, I lump them all into one item. So 15 items total. Of the 15, 8 of the 15 are either in progress or have been completed. Not very many have been completed. I think there's 2 or 3. Am I right, Scott?
Yes.
And 6 of the 15 give us a window of the end of the 2025 through the end of the 2027 fiscal year to complete. So that was encouraging for me when I started doing a breakdown of it. And as Scott promised, Councilman Murphy, we will put together a spreadsheet and we'll share it with the whole council where we are with each item, with each issue that was found in the sanitary survey. That way, the council knows where we are and what is left to be funded and all that stuff, okay? The very first one, 3.1, the Cross Connection Program, there is already a contract being created for that. That is, the state wants us to have a staff person do that task. However, we don't have that capability right now. So we're gonna do a 2-year contract to get started so that we will be in compliance with what Eagle wants.
So getting a vendor or someone to, so that we can be understood.
Yes, ma'am. And then in that gap, we're going to find someone that has all the licensing needed, which one of the licenses is a certified plumber, a master plumber, am I right,
Correct.
Scott? So that is going to be a 2-year contract for a total of $107,000.
So you've already put that, did you find someone for that?
Yes.
Okay, and so does that include having a master plumber?
So the inspector has to be a master plumber.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
okay.
Yeah. So that is one of the items that we are putting in that column of completed or on the way to completion.
Okay,
All right. Item 3.2. Yes, item 3.2, that's to be done no later than March 31st. That is the Dort pumping station. That has been completed. That has been completed. All of the testing has been completed. The vibration and heat testing that was required by the state is complete. And this was already paid for, and we have a resolution number for that. That's resolution 210103. So that's already bought and paid for.
okay.
All right. 3.2B, which is a rehabilitation of the Dort Reservoir. That is 75. Would you say 75% complete or more?
No more than that, 95.
95.
We just had
It's
to put a
almost
screen
done.
over the drain. It's in a confined space. I had to get confined space training a couple months ago. Eagle let us wait till the weather broke to go down in there. So within the next 2 weeks, that'll be getting done.
Then that'll
and
be done.
off of the list.
That'll be
Okay.
done by June 1st. And that is already bought and paid for. That's resolution number 200162.
Okay.
200162. Now we have, we can move over to 3.3, which is this, and that's the Cedar Street Reservoir. So there is a construction contract ready to start. The construction contract is ready to start for the Cedar Street Reservoir. I mean, not reservoir, booster station, sorry.
And you know, Mr. Miller, and if you and Mr. Judge, because I know our time, we used to have, you did, budgets, there was no time because you were handling the city's business. We have a time constraint. I appreciate, if you can just, or you and Mr. Judge, just email us where it's
we
at.
can. Absolutely.
That way it's just easier because I do read.
Absolutely.
I do take, when y'all send me stuff, I read.
Okay, all right, yep.
So
We-
if you could do that, and then I want to go into, to pay for these projects was supposed to be the wind funds. And there have been, and I think Yolanda may know, the November and December reimbursements, and maybe, well, how much was the reimbursements for November and December? Because when I spoke to Eric Cocan, he was saying that that's really going to take up the rest of wind funds.
Offhand, I
Can you speak
don't.
closer to the mic?
Oh, so, offhand, I don't recall the November and December invoices total, but I'm going to estimate it was close to like $1.5 million for November and December. That would be the restoration as well as service line replacement invoices for LGC.
Okay, and his numbers were, he was saying we have 1.5 million that's left that the state gave. So we could just figure like, what did the city submit for November and December? Because the state is saying that once we deplete that, we won't have anything for funds. When funds will be basically done.
Yes, that's correct. For the
Okay.
November, December invoices, those will be paid via the state funds that are
Right.
remaining, yes.
So these projects with the ACO were supposed to be, well, we were supposed to create our own fund balance. If we could get something, because I don't want to take up too much, well, I don't. I
Now,
could-
some of the, sorry to correct
No,
you
no,
on
you're
that,
fine.
for the ACO, some of those projects that have been completed or are ongoing and will be completed have been paid via WIN.
Right,
The
okay.
Dort Reservoir, Dort Pump Station, the Cedar Pump Station and Cedar Reservoir are actually being paid from the state ARP dollars. We were given $11.5 million to complete that. So state ARP dollars via Eagle are paying for the Cedar Street.
Okay, and when you send that, can we put it, like, what source it was paid for, as you're putting that, so that, it'll be like, just kind of self-explanatory? Sherry Meyer sent me an email, I don't know if she sent it to everyone else, and I don't know if Mr. Miller, if you got it, that there's $20 million available?
No,
I'll send that to you.
please, thank you. Yeah.
I'll send that. So I think the biggest concern is with the other projects, what funding are we seeking to pay for these projects?
Yes, well, we're going to try to tap into the drinking water state revolving funds for these items. Actually, one of the items is in plan review right now, which is the 24-inch water main rehabilitation on the northwest side of town. That application is already in. The vendor that did the survey for us was DLC.
Okay.
So they did the application for us. It is in the state's hands right now for review.
Do we have anyone doing any service line replacements at all here? I know LGC is in Detroit, because Detroit is moving along really quick. Do we have who's tying up these last service line replacements?
We currently aren't doing any service line replacements.
Okay. I will, well, before I go, because I may not get my time back, but if we could just put, like I said, those, just what to reiterate, who's paying for them, what place, like Ms. Dunn, you said 95% just need to have whatever that last requirement was, so that I can tie everything that's on the ACO. I'll create my own, so I'll know what progress, like where it's at. And then the state funding, I don't know if we could get like an email or attached to that, maybe just one report, like this is the funding that we are seeking, this fund, this fund, this fund. I don't even know if we have a grant writer for the city. Do you have a grant writer in your department? I know certain
Don't. I
departments
thought
used to have a
Seamus
grant
was the
writer.
grant writer.
We have some grant writers on city staff. I don't think
Okay.
we have any in their department.
They don't have any in their department, though?
Right.
Okay, because I know used to be, departments used to have them. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to go back to your presentation on a question real quick, and I would like you to have the opportunity. Have you finished what you had to say, or did you have other things that you wanted to?
Yes, I'll take questions.
Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and let Ms. Mashat have her time. Be prepared.
Hello, Councilwoman Mouchette.
Be prepared. Be very prepared.
Hello, thank you everyone for coming this evening. I will be as long as Judy allows. So, I know. And some of this I'm gonna skip around. I have lots of questions written out. Some of them may be answered in my quest to get answers for certain other things. So I'm gonna go back to this water plant organizational chart. I noticed that we have a couple of things that are vacant, specifically the cross-connection manager. Are we actively looking for someone to fill that position? And what, are we offering competitive wages for that position?
So that is the contract that we are bringing on board, the contract for $107,000, because Mr. Dungy has not yet been able to find someone qualified to do that work. I'm assuming we're going to be as competitive as our structure allows us to be in our search.
Okay.
Ms. Mashat?
Yes.
I'd also like to add, the position for the cross-connection inspector is actually called a plumbing and mechanical inspector, and it is posted on the website. It has been ongoing since the individual who retired over 2 years ago. So we are trying to look for someone, but due to the compliance issues that we have to move forward with the company that we're going to contract.
You said it's posted under plumbing and
Plumbing and mechanical inspector.
mechanical inspector. Thank you. And I'm kind of gonna move around here. I need to go back to here where we talk about capital. We're talking building and infrastructure, right, when we say capital?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. Yes,
Okay. And then, how much revenue was lost since COVID as far as, and I'm talking about like the water and sewer funds separately?
The water fund has a structural deficit right now.
Can't hear you.
And we're losing, $5 to $6 million a year. And that's just not sustainable. At some point, we have to address that. The wastewater fund is doing better, but it also hasn't had a rate increase in 10 years. And for the fiscal year that just ended, they had a loss of approximately $200,000.
So you said for the waste is 200K for the fiscal year,
Right.
and then for just the water, it's 5 to 6 million?
Yes.
All right, okay, so, but how much of that revenue was lost since the start of COVID? Like, how much total?
From the start of COVID?
Since 2020, yeah.
I honestly don't know. I could find out that it's been steadily going down for a number of years. I know that there have been some reports that have talked about our structural deficit for a couple of years. And, it's a problem that we're going to have to address.
Okay, how much was, I have questions written everywhere, so excuse all the pauses. How much, so you probably won't have the answer to, how much has been paid that should have been paid during that period?
How much has been paid?
How much hasn't been paid that should have been paid during that period? So start of COVID till now. You wouldn't have that either?
In terms of the revenue side, how many, we have approximately $27 million of receivables on our books for the water and sewer combined. Now, a good portion of that is the current, people are billed, and it takes a period of time to pay it, but we do have a lot of money on our books.
Okay, let me take a step back. What is the total amount owed in both funds? So what's the total
That's
amount
the
owed
part-
in water, total amount owed in sewer? Separate, like, don't give them to me as one number.
I'd have to get back. I know, I'll get you the numbers for that. That's,
Okay. Might not be able to answer this one. Let's see. If there was no water or sewer debt, how much would these service have to or need to be to maintain the appropriate amount, the appropriate fund balance? So if we were at zero, right, nobody owed anything, how much would the service fees have to be or need to be to maintain an appropriate fund balance?
the water fund would still have a loss. The wastewater fund would probably be breaking even at this point. But you can't really not do the capital improvements. The system absolutely demands that we maintain it over time, and if we don't, we're just going to have higher costs in the future.
Scotty got to say about that. Scotty,
Okay, hold on.
hidden figures in there somewhere.
If you want, I can get you the debt service numbers for the water and sewer funds.
I won't, thank you.
Okay.
Let me go back to this one. Okay, so maybe this is something that can be answered, or maybe you're just point me back to what you just said. But if the debt was zero and the service charges were lowered, what would the expected non-payment be?
The expected what?
Meaning, let's see, are there people who would never pay, or is it about the amount of money that has to be paid per month? Is that the problem? I'm trying to figure out where our deficit comes from. So if the debt was zero and the service charges were lowered,
Right.
then where would our debt be coming from? Would it be from people who are just never paying, or is it about the amount of money that they have to pay per month?
I'm not sure I can answer that question.
Okay.
I think that's people make their individual choices for that. I do think there's several big categories of cost for both utilities. The cost of employees is obviously a big one. In case of water, the cost of purchasing water is also a big expense. And when I'm going to back up to the water. The water debt service is an interesting number because we owe debt for the KWA,
Hey, stop yelling out.
but when we get our bill from the Great Lakes Water Authority, they reduce it by the amount of the debt service. So I'm not sure how you count that. If we don't have that debt, we'd have a higher water cost.
Okay, and so how are funds prioritized, like between maintenance, infrastructure upgrades, and new projects?
I'm sorry.
How are funds prioritized between maintenance, infrastructure upgrades, and new projects? Like, how do you decide?
That's the
Whomever can answer. I don't have a specific, whomever can answer.
priority of the projects. We leave that to Mr. Miller. Would be the ones that decides that.
At the water plant, as far as, if it's operational stuff, we take the stuff that, a lot of things have to be in compliance. They have to be tested, they have to be calibrated. So, if an instrument comes to the point in time where it's getting outdated, Eagle and the compliance, safe drinking water act kind of requires us to upgrade that equipment, stuff of that nature. And, with the city being in financial distress for so many years, a lot of the equipment was old. So since 2016, and they came in and invested so much money, we have had to, upgrade a lot of our equipment. So we try to take it by importance, pick the most serious equipment first and do that. So Yolanda and I have sat down and come up with a 3 to 5 year budget to try to spread some of that expenditure out.
Okay, and some of this might have been answered in the ACO, but can you detail any major upcoming capital improvement projects and their expected impact on service quality and reliability?
Well, the study of I'm going to repeat this, the 24-inch water main, that is a vital artery on the northwest side of town. So in any water distribution system in the perfect world, there is a condition assessment program. We do not have one right now. So but we're going to leverage some things in actually the ACO to kind of mimic some sort of condition assessment program until we can afford a full-fledged real condition assessment program for our water distribution system. And what I'm referencing now is the valve operation program that is in the ACO. So in a condition assessment program, valves are tested, flows are tested through flushing fire hydrants, and flows are measured to see what the actual condition of the water main is. The condition of the water main is and how much flow it gets, because that's so important. And so that's how you determine what needs to be replaced in the water distribution system, as well as historical data. Paul can talk to you about break history and items such as those. Paul, being our water services distribution supervisor, knows where every main break has happened in the last several years and how many and which mains need to be replaced. And so the historical data and testing in a perfect world is how we determine what the consequence of failure and the likelihood of failure. Those tests tell us that.
Paul, hi. How many water main breaks have we had in the past year? Okay, this year. Make it simpler.
This was a slower winter, actually. I think we had about probably less than 100 this year for the winter. It's actually one of our lower winters. We've had a few in the last few weeks. Nothing too major, though. Everything's been pretty mild by our chart. So it's been actually a good winter.
How often do they occur?
Winter time's your busy time, due to the frost in the ground, the fluctuation with the frost that creates a lot of ground movement. So summertime's difference is different pressures in the system, maybe pressure spikes or maybe due to a fire, hydrants being opened at a rapid rate. So a big change in pressure there, how fast the hydrants get closed. Kids playing with the hydrants, hammering the main. So this sorts of various factors that can attribute to that. But back to what Mr. Miller said, too, there was, based on some of the assessments, we had a reliability study, the Arcata study in 2016. So that was an overview of the whole infrastructure, age, miles by decades, when it was installed. So you kind of get a breakdown of what the age of the water main is. So that's one of your assessments that you would have, as far as along with past history of record keeping of where we've had troubled areas with main breaks. And that northwest loop was one of the issues that we had. It's and part of that loop's already been completed. We're working on the second phase of it as we speak. So, but there's been a lot of other work that's been done throughout the system over the years, as well as when he talked about valves. There's a lot of large valves that that we had repaired or replaced. And in recent years, it has actually helped improve the flow of the system as well. Because when you have broken valves, you create dead ends, which create issues. You might get dirty water build up because you have a dead end, or if there's any kind of pressure and influx in the system and a dead end hits that dead end there, it could create main breaks and stuff like that. So we went through probably back in 2018 and rebuilt and replaced quite a few large valves that we at one point didn't know how to repair, but we figured it out. So there's been a lot of not just water main replacement, but there's been a lot of along with the upgrades at the water plant, there's been a lot of repairs that we've done to help the system, the improvement of the system.
Okay, I think you answered like 6 of my follow-ups. Hold on. So then, are there any other initiatives or technologies being implemented to reduce operational costs and improve efficiency? I know you guys have named quite a few things, so is there anything else?
Well, we have a brand-new chemical feed building that's fully automated and controlled by a SCADA system, where I can have one foreman sitting at a table continuous, and he can operate that, all 3 different pumps. He can vary the feed rates and everything. So automation has played a big part in upgrading our system.
Right. And I think I'm gonna go back. You guys probably already answered this, and I think I did hear a little bit of it about how the budget supports compliance with federal, state, and local governmental regulations, including the Safe Drinking Water Act and the Clean Water Act. I think I heard a little bit of the answer there. What investments are being made to enhance the sustainability of water and sewer operations, such as reducing water waste or improving energy efficiency? So, as we're kind of moving a little bit more toward technology, what's helping to reduce water waste and improve energy efficiency?
So that's interesting you asked that. I just had a meeting with Scott today, and one of my questions to him was, are we comparing how many millions of gallons, how many gallons are being pumped daily with how many are being metered daily at our customers' meters, right? Right now, we don't have the answer, but that will take place. What I'm interested in is lost revenue water, right? Of course, firefighters use water that's not metered, right? Our water services team, when they fix water main breaks, use water that is not metered. So there's going to be some gaps there. However, if we see a large number, we know it's not the fire department, we know it's not Paul's team flushing a water main after a water main break. We're going to have to investigate and then bring in some kind of technology, which could be pressure sensors, acoustic survey systems that you can attach to fire hydrants, items such as those, so we can capture where this lost revenue water is, and then search for what they're called blind leaks. Search for these and then plug them.
All right, and if at any point in time I ask something that's a little redundant, you can just say, as I stated, I won't feel offended. What portion of the budget is dedicated to maintaining and improving the sewer system, specifically including preventing overflows and managing stormwater?
Before Jiggy comes up, I'll speak to that.
Okay.
As you can see, there's an item in the budget for $3 million for root control, right? Root control is very, the tree canopy in Flint is beautiful, but is an impact to the sewer system, right? So this $3 million will be invested in the system to prevent backflow into our sewers, into basements. Surcharge sewers, you want to keep the capacity of the sewers as high as possible, as high as it was designed for, and root infiltration is a major problem. We will in the future concentrate on doing some what's called fog, fat, oil, and grease remediation in some of our areas that have a lot of restaurants, for example, downtown. And so those are places that we're going to invest in the future to make sure that our sewer system is running optimally.
How much of this, and I know Jiggy has to come up, but how much of this is geared toward education, right? Because I know when I was younger, you used to hear all the time, don't pour grease down the drains and all that. So now we have more people coming in, more renters who are not necessarily homeowners. So how much of this is geared toward educating the residents of what they can and cannot pour down the drain? How much of the budget is geared toward education?
That's an interesting question. Right now, I don't see any. So what we can do is pivot, right? I don't know if we will use a full $3 million doing root control, but perhaps we can pivot and take a slice of that and put in some sort of educational pieces. For example, I would like to see billboards that say what you just said. I would like to do some public service announcements that talk about keeping the curb line clean in front of homes, right? That would remediate not basement flooding, but street flooding, right? Because we're on a separated system. So that needs some discussion, absolutely. And Jiggy and I and Mr. Moore, we could talk about that.
Okay, and I didn't know if he needed to. Are you serious? I am nowhere near done. Okay.
Just one quick thing.
And then when you answer that, just answer if we have a flood plan too.
I can give you a quick answer. So our MS4 system, the MS4 explains, that's what it's part of. The MS4 is part of public education. So like next week, we'll have to go talk, we have a group going to speak with Kettering kids. I've spoken with, different groups of how to properly dispose of grease, what can happen if you don't clean out your catch basins and stuff like that. So the MS4 includes that. So it's called it includes public education.
And then do we have a flood risk plan? Because I know, one of the things that can help with flood insurance is, if we have that plan. So do we have a flood risk plan in place?
Now, that's a good question I can get back to you on. I'm pretty sure we do. I'm almost certain we do, but I wouldn't wanna do that to you just yet.
Y'all are gonna get callbacks because she stopped me, and I promise you I'm nowhere near done.
That's okay. Come back.
So if you want me to eat up some of your time, I can talk about
I don't,
lining
I
the
don't, I
sewer.
don't, I don't, I don't. Can you excuse me? So then you can't answer because this kind of goes with the the flood risk plan of, can you discuss any ongoing or planned projects to upgrade sewer infrastructure to handle increased capacity or mitigate flood risks?
So, yes, what we've been doing is like, just say for instance, like the Swartz Creek. We've been, you know. Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. We've been basically, like, for a lot of the areas that flood a lot, we were able to purchase some like we have a mini excavator with a ditch bucket.
Okay.
So we've been slowly just like certain places where they're overgrown, where it doesn't have a place to go, we were able to create culverts and stuff like that for it to flow freely to the lakes.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody here specifically front-facing with the water department or somebody that can answer on behalf of Amanda? Because I have two questions of how does the budget support customer service operations, including billing, complaints resolution, and public outreach? And then also, are there initiatives funded to enhance communication with residents about water conservation, rate changes, or service disruptions?
I'll probably be the closest you have to that. Amanda's not here tonight.
We can
If you
skip
have-
it.
if you have
We can skip it.
particular, specific questions, we can make sure we get the answers for those.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly enough, that is another consent order item, a dedicated customer service team just for water.
Right.
And so that probably will overlap into what you're just asking.
All right, I had some emergency preparedness and resilience questions, but I'll skip down to your performance measurement and accountability. What metrics or performance indicators are used to assess the effectiveness and efficiency of water and sewer services? And how does the department report on performance outcomes and budget utilization?
Great question. So we just began doing some rudimentary reporting, just really small right now. How many water main breaks came in last week? How many were repaired? How many are we holding? How many meters got replaced this week? How many transponders got replaced this week? How many miles of sewer was cleaned, both storm and sanitary? And so we just onboarded this process. It will expand. That way, this reporting and this transparency will help us determine how our team, the whole team of the water department is performing, and it will also help us in the outlook for the next budget. It would be critically important to know how many, and these are actually reports that can be and will be run in City Works. The number of water main breaks, the team doesn't necessarily have to report that can be pulled right out of City Works, how many breaks we had this year. And so that it will help Paul be able to budget for how much more or less his budget will be for the repair side.
Okay. I had one about how's the budget going to reflect better protecting like the river and the reservoirs, but I can't find where that one went. So, Do we have any, like, contingency plans for, or does the budget support any emergency response capabilities for water supply disruptions or contamination events?
I cannot speak to that right now. I think in the normal day-to-day, when an emergency takes place, the team just responds, and that becomes part. It gets rolled into their operational budget for their day-to-day.
But there's nothing specifically for, like, any emergency contamination events, and I'm sure you can appreciate why I'd ask, being in Flint, yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I'm gonna go back to you. How are the water rates determined, and what factors influence rate adjustments?
Our plan is to have a water and sewer rate study. And what they try to do is make it so that all the customers are treated equally in terms of whether it be the diameter of the line that's servicing them or the volume of water that they're purchasing.
Darts.
That should all be treated equally. The state does have some requirements about what they consider to be equity between the different rate structures. And that's one of the reasons why we're going to be having a rate study. And we also want to, as part of that, look at how our rates compare to other rates in the surrounding area so we can see where we stand.
Have we ever looked into implementing programs like the TAP program in Philadelphia, where, like, we have a rate structure that, okay, if I get a chance.
Okay, that's your time. Go ahead. I want to say, Linden did a rate study because they're connecting to GLEWA, and I will forward that information to you. Go ahead, Ms. Winfrey Carter.
Thank you for being here tonight, this evening. Mr. Martin, and maybe, I don't know who this question would go to, but I'm looking at the budget. Can you provide an overview of the proposed budget for the upcoming fiscal year? And I guess what I want to know, and I think it's up on the board as far as, why do we have the the sewer fund up there?
Because we were talking about sewer, so I switched it.
Okay, I guess when I look at that, let me ask this question first. What are the primary challenges the department is currently facing? And how does the proposed budget address these challenges?
Well, one word in particular: resources. Whether it be money or human resources, people. I keep beating this drum, and we're gonna do the best we can. The entire country is in a crisis. No one can get anyone to come work, especially the type of hard work that Jiggy and Paul's people do, right? And so that's going to be a challenge. I can't speak to what the budget is going to do for that, but I can speak to what we as a department are going to do, if you don't mind. I think that the outreach is needed on my end. From my end in particular, we need to recruit young people that do not plan to go away to school. Not that it's any lesser than. The work that we do is critically important, and we need to continue to stress that. And so from my end, because I've done this before, I will do my best to work with the Human Resources Department to do a recruitment drive to get young people to come and work for the Flint Water Department. Now, that's just one piece of it, right? Mm-hmm. So this may become a budget item because we got to teach these young people how to work, right? I think Paul does a fantastic job with his program of physical agilities testing, but that presents its own challenge. Some of these young people come, they do pause physical agilities test, which is not over the top, and they don't show up the next day. So it's going to take some time to build a workforce. And of course, it's going to take some time for us to stabilize in order to be able to pay for these new people.
What are some of the qualifications that you're looking for and levels of education?
So, of course, we want people to be as educated as possible, right? To work at the Water Services Center or even at the water treatment plant or the wastewater treatment plant, reading, writing, and arithmetic are very important, right? And so these basic life skills, Councilwoman Burns talked about Michigan Works, right? Have they already had an opportunity, if they don't have these basic skills, to gain them in a program like Michigan Works? Or if there are any other programs in the Flint area that can help people get started and then move over to the water department, right? It is critically important for us to teach people how to use tools, right? Can they use tools? I'll give you an example. I know you only got a little bit of time, but I was training a young man about 6 months ago how to dig a ditch. We don't do it by hand anymore, but in order to come work for my department, you need to know how, right? Just in case that piece of machinery breaks down. He had never used a shovel before in his life. The man was 24 years old, had never touched a shovel before in his life. So these are the things that we're going to have to invest in. And we can build that into the next budget or amend this budget in order to get some sort of educational program in place if we want to do it ourselves or if we want to partner with a group or an organization to help us to do that.
Yeah. Now, I always think about the water pollution lab and stuff. What are you looking for as far as the water pollution lab? What type of educational level? I mean, because I know at Mott, don't they do a 2-year program in science?
Well, I'm
Are
not
you
sure. The water
looking-
pollution control by the water plant, we have to have a bachelor's in science.
In science,
Chemistry of some sort. That's what our
chemistry.
lab techs are required to have. yes.
Right. Okay.
I'll give you an example that is in the ACO, right? It really is so the ACO is something that is unpalatable from a standpoint of Eagle telling us what we have to do, right? However, these initiatives, some of them are quite basic. The need to have a full-time inspection unit, that's very reasonable, right? And so in my past life, I was an inspector at one time. I held several jobs at DWSD on my way to my final destination. In past history, those jobs were people that had gone to college, and they had gone to college with the goal of becoming an engineer. And for whatever happened, life happens, right? And they don't finish school, so they become a construction inspector. Right now, there is a shortage of construction inspectors because you just do not have people with that level of qualification, because they did take some engineering courses, right, before they dropped out of school or whatever happened in life. And so these are the types of skills that we need in order to run the department more efficiently.
Okay. Let's see. I think this is, are there any significant new expenditures in this year's budget? And maybe Mr. Moore can, I don't know
There
who
are some
can
capital
answer that.
projects that are planned, some of them are quite significant. In the water pollution control, there's a very big project that we're looking at. It's a force main project. And that's a very necessary program. It's also very expensive. We also have smaller projects, such as we need to replace some roofs in the water facility.
Okay.
But they have a lot of capital items that need to be done.
Yeah, of course, we all know that. We all know. We gotta get on top of that ACO. We really do. When I think about emergencies, I think about the pump 5 station, or pump station 5. How prepared is the department to handle extreme, maybe weather events or other emergencies that can impact the sewer system? Because that was big. Can anybody answer that question?
Well,
Or
what
Mr.
is,
Martin?
Miller, I'm sorry.
I mean Miller.
Yes, ma'am. What is required by the EPA is that we as an organization have an emergency response plan. There is one in place that outlines how many pumps we have available, how much staff will be available in an emergency, what emergency services will be available. Now, we have to update that plan every 5 years.
Yes.
Every 5 years, it is time to update that plan, and we will do so before it's due to the EPA.
Okay. And of course, I know we have some planned infrastructure upgrades. We've been doing that all along. When I think about the Miller Road project, do we have any projects like the Miller Road project coming up where we have to go through and change out the water main pipes and everything?
I'll answer that. So we just completed the Saginaw Street project, if we're aware of that, right?
Right,
So
right.
that's been completed as far as the water main portion.
Right.
All new valves, hydrants, services to the businesses from the main into the buildings. So anything that had any lead and stuff like that, we replaced it right up inside the building so that we didn't have to mess with any of the structures as far as sidewalks and curbs and things like that.
Okay.
We have 2 projects in the works right now. We've had design on both of them. One is we got a broken water main, transmission main under the river down at Hamilton and James P. Cole.
Okay.
So that's been in design. It's actually getting ready to go out to bid. That's about almost $1 million project, a little less than that. And then also another one that's been designed just down the street for James P. Cole to reroute an 18-inch transmission main that ran through the old Buick property between Lee Street and Massachusetts. So we're gonna reroute that so that, because there's future development for the Ashley Capital that's gonna at some point go through there. So so that we don't have to have the easements for the water. That'll eliminate, for one, old water main, along with that used to be a neighborhood before it was GM property. So there's about 100 old residential services that were stubbed, cut capped for the Buick property. So that's another one that's gonna get rerouted outside of that property down James P. Cole. So Massachusetts, the old St. John Street is actually what it used to be. So it'll come down to St. John's at Massachusetts, come out down Massachusetts to James P. Cole, all the way down to Garfield.
Okay.
So that's another section that we'll be replacing as well, and that's about a $3.5 million project. And there'll be new valves on that as well as hydrants, and there's a couple, buildings that are connected to that, transmission main as well.
Okay. As far as the water and sewer department, both, how many grants do you guys have as far as your budget? Any grants?
Nothing at the moment.
Okay, okay.
Any monies that we had, is all part of the. what's
Pardon
all- Any money that's remaining from the last grants, that's all we have. That
Okay.
1.5 million, that's it.
Of what grant is that?
That's the wind fund.
The wind funds? Yeah. Well, I know about the wind funds, but any other
No,
outside of?
I applied for one for the businesses, the tier twos, services.
Mm-hmm,
We won't have an answer on that until the end of this year.
okay,
So, and that's about a $600,000 grant, and that's just so that we can verify line composition for all the commercial businesses.
okay. What, talked about, I think we answered this one, the capital improvements, I think, Councilwoman in the 7th Ward asked about that, if I'm not mistaken. What are the primary drivers of the department's operating costs?
Right now, and I'll hand that off to these gentlemen right now, after I answer. But right now, I would say, being reactive instead of proactive, and of course, that comes with the lack of resources, I believe.
Right.
You know, what are we being proactive about is something we're gonna have to study and get more proactive. But right now, we're just really reactive. And I don't know if, and if these gentlemen disagree with me, I'm fine with that because I'm brand new. They might tell you about some proactive things that they're doing right now.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, I kind of feel the same way, you know, that cross-connection inspector, that was something that we should have been proactive. You know, that gentleman, you know, told us 2 years in advance he was leaving, you know, and we did nothing until he left.
Right.
And now we're caught in a catch-2 where we have to get a contract to take care of it until we can, and the company is willing to work with us. They just did a 2-year contract. They're willing to train us and teach us, and they realize we ultimately do want to fill that position and bring that back.
Yeah, because that's one of the open positions,
You know,
right?
and, you know, the biggest expenditures, you know, Yolanda does a lot of the actual accounting, but, you know, I know our chemicals go up continuous. We use a lot of chemicals, a lot of reagents in all of our analyzers. Every bit of that goes up. I mean, I get, you know, emails constantly, you know.
You want me to come and work for you guys?
Yeah.
I have a
Yeah,
degree
come
in
on.
We'd love
chemistry.
it.
Can y'all get me up to speed?
We'll get
I
you
got
up to
my
speed.
degree, oh God, it's been years ago. What, I graduated in 1987 with my degree in chemistry. I used to teach chemistry.
We love to have you.
I can come and work in a water pollution lab.
I would recommend that the elected officials tour both the water and sewer plants if you ever have an opportunity. It's
I
very
will.
impressive if you tour
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
I know you can't do more
enjoy
than 2, so I'll do one at a time. I don't have a problem with that.
Maybe after I retire and want to go into something else, I'll come back and work part-time. How about that?
That'll work. That'll work.
I think that's it for me. I think most of the questions that I have been answered. And that's it for me. As far as you guys, thank you for coming.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
All right, so I'll go ahead and I'll ask my colleague in the 7th Ward to continue with her questions.
Candace, Dr. Lewis is giving you her time.
Candace, what you gonna do with it? Hello? Mr. Mitchell, what's wrong with her? Gotta have a plumbing license. Like, real important.
What initiatives are funded to control inflow and infiltration into the sewer system, which can lead to excess water entering the sewers and overloading the system?
Great question, Mr. Mitchell. I'll
Thank you,
I'll
Dr.
stand down
Lewis.
and let him talk about that.
Repeat that for me right quick.
Absolutely. I said, what initiatives are funded to control inflow and infiltration into the sewer system, which can lead to excess water entering the sewers and overloading the system?
That's where we have the lining, what you see on, in the capital improvements up for our lining. That's what we do. What we do is we go to a lot of areas where we have a lot of flooding and infiltration, and that's the areas we pick to be lined. So that's where a company comes in and they put fiberglass, they install a fiberglass lining, and they'll go down the whole street and they'll line the whole block.
All right. And then, are there any budget efforts to support more energy efficient sewer operations? Or like, are we gonna go into like any renewable energy or energy efficient equipment?
Hell, I'm trying to do the regular stuff. That's, I wish.
Ms. Best may be able to speak to that. No.
Cause I'm new collections and then she's the plant, if that makes sense.
Whomever can answer it.
Yelling at me, sorry. Over the last 5 years, we've been doing upgrades at the facility, at the wastewater treatment plant, and a lot of that is to make the plant more energy efficient. So one of the biggest things we've done is replace the aeration blowers. We had great big blowers. They have to provide air to one of our processes. And we had 5 of them, that were 1,750 horsepower blowers. And when you turned on one of those, they just sucked up the energy. It costs a lot of money. And if you started one at the wrong time of day, then it would spike your peak, which raised your rates. What we've done is replaced all of those blowers with high-efficiency turbo blowers. And instead of 1,750 horsepower, they are dual-core blowers that are 350 times 2 in each blower. So we can run either 350 horsepower or 700 horsepower. And generally, we can provide all the air we need with the 700 horsepower blower, but we've got 3 of those. So we can ramp them up and down as we need them. We don't have the big spikes in our energy. So that's one of the projects. We've converted from chlorine disinfection, and when we disinfected with chlorine, we were required to remove the excess chlorine with sulfur dioxide, which are 2 highly toxic chemicals.
Absolutely.
So what we did is we put in ultraviolet light disinfection. So that eliminated 2 toxic chemicals on site with a lot of training.
Does that also kind of stop the need to do any kind of like chlorine flushes? Does that help with that?
We don't do chlorine
We don't
flushes.
do chlorine flush?
No.
Okay.
All we did is disinfect the water that we were gonna put back in the river after we cleaned it up.
Okay.
But we've put in high efficiency dewatering devices instead of running what they call belt filter presses that squeeze the water out of the residuals of the solids that we removed. We put in centrifuges, which are high speed. They increase the percent solids that we are taking to the landfill, so we're not sending as much water. So that's reducing the cost. So we're doing that. We've done, we had 10 projects online, and we've got, I'll say 8.5 of those completed. We've got 3 more that are to enhance the process that are online right now. And that's actually a grant from the ARP money, that we got a $20 million grant to do those projects. And the project that Phil was talking about, the great big huge project, it is to rehabilitate the forest main that comes from the 3rd Avenue pump station, which is right next to Kettering. There's a big pump station there that sends the water all the way to the wastewater treatment plant. And what we've done to upgrade that pump station is we've taken one of the great big pumps out and put in a half-size pump, so we'll be able to run that when our flows are really low. And one of the things Jiggy didn't mention about the inflow and infiltration, we've had an in-system flow monitoring project ongoing for, I don't know, over 12 years, maybe even longer than that. And what we do is we move the flow monitoring meters around to look and see where we get spikes in the flow when it rains, so that we can assist in having water sewer lined when we need to. So it helps him pinpoint some areas where we've got high flows. And we've had a few. We actually had one where we found a pipeline, sewer line going across Gilkey Creek, and every time it rained and the creek level came up, there was a break in that line, and all it did is dump the water into the sewer system. But the thing about the wastewater plant is that because the city is no longer 250,000 people and
Right.
doesn't have the industry it did, we don't need to operate the huge plant that we have. So a lot of the upgrades are allowing us to take equipment offline and use half of the plant. So that's one of the energy efficient things we're doing, is instead of running a plant designed to treat 50 million gallons of water when we're only getting 15, is we can take half of the plant offline and treat the 15 million. So, but we're implementing a lot of energy efficient and just upgrading a process that hasn't been upgraded since the 70s.
All right, thank you. And Jiggy, I think this is going back to you. And we've seen a number of sinkholes happening now, right, by the sewer grates. So how does the sewer department collaborate with other city departments to address overlapping issues, like road repairs that might be affecting sewer lines, or combined stormwater and sewer management?
Basically, what we do is, if we go by the worst, if that makes sense to you, we go by
Yep.
the worst and go from there, because it's a trillion of them. So we go by the worst and go from there.
Okay. And I know that you do a lot of work with street maintenance. I know in our budget hearings where we've asked questions about kind of interdepartmental relationships, we've heard they don't really work with other departments, which was interesting. But I know you do a lot of work with street maintenance. So, but what are metrics or performance indicators that you use to assess the effectiveness and efficiency of sewer operations?
The best thing we have to help us function right is we have a CCTV truck that's able to go underground.
Oh, what truck? I'm sorry.
It's called a CCTV truck.
I'm with you. Okay.
Yep. That's able, so a lot of the times when you see a sinkhole, and a lot of people, and not trying to throw a shot, but sometimes people mistake potholes from sinkholes. It's a big difference between a pothole and a sinkhole. A sinkhole is from the ground where it's pulling air out, it's pulling the air, and that's when you see collapsing and holes like that. It could be a small little hole that's pulling air, and it's just pulling it into the ground. It's pulling it into our system.
And this might be a little bit more of a question for street maintenance, so you just let me know.
Go ahead.
But normally, because I see them, they're right by the sewer.
Catch
the-
basins?
Yeah.
The catch basins?
Yes.
Yeah, now those could just be old. They may need to be rebuilt, but a lot of the times if people, when you see one, just call us and let us know, because I think we got.
My question to that is, how much have we spent on possible repairs, and how much of that is actually because of it's like a sewer line related issue, and how much of it might be because it's the road, just the road being old, and how much money gets spent on those repairs?
I would say that just comes out of our normal operating budget, so we're budgeted
They can't hear. Can you come to the
Oh, I'm
microphone,
sorry.
please? They
Yeah.
can't hear it.
That just comes out of our normal operating budget. For our supply side, on the sewer side, we're budgeted for about $500,000 a year. So we're able to cover, which mostly just is, if you're talking like manholes and the catch basins, is just, you know, brick block or castings and stuff like that. So
Okay.
we don't have anything specifically separate for that. It's just one of our normal operating costs.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Moore, did we ever find out about the Biden infrastructure dollars and if we're gonna receive any?
Ever find out what?
The Biden infrastructure dollars, have we ever found out if we were gonna receive any?
From what I can understand, I don't think we actually have applied for that.
Are there plans to apply?
We are looking, yes, there are. One of the things, this goes more for the next section for the transportation. We need to have what they call a transportation asset management plan. And we're actively talking about trying to get that up and running.
Now I'm back over to, what's the average water bill for residents?
The average resident uses, I believe, 4 units, and I believe for both the water and sewer, it's probably somewhere between $80 to $90 a month for combined.
All right, and then, is there a breakdown of what we owe in terms of, water service? Do we currently have a balance with GLEWA? Do we owe GLEWA anything right now? Or is this, the deficit that we're seeing is just in our services? I think I'm asking that, right? It's not coming out how I'm trying to ask it.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Give me a minute. There was an email I sent you on the 14th.
Right, yes.
Yeah. Did you find out the answer to that question?
I'm still looking into that. I apologize for that, but I had a work on the SRF loan project that was due yesterday. So.
Perfect, because I think I included that in my question as well. There is a date of June 1st that we have until June 1st. Is that correct, that we can kind of make some adjustments that we need to make?
Yes.
Okay. Are we going to make some adjustments?
I'm not aware of any, but I may not know everything.
Hold on. And yes, I have questions written everywhere, so give me 1 second, because now that we're there, I'm going to go to where those questions are. So as far as the SRF, can we address our plan to include the completion of lead service line replacements and material inventory?
I'm having a hard time.
Can we adjust our plan that we submitted to include the plan to complete lead service line replacements and material inventory?
I'm not sure we can change our plan from what, I suspect, do you know the answer to that, Jeanette?
Crystal?
Or Crystal? I'm not sure that we can change the plan once we've submitted that.
We can't adjust our plan. We don't have until June 1st to adjust that SRF plan?
Well, the big project we're having, that would be a major change for us at this point.
Well, what you're doing is talking about 2 separate subjects,
Mhm.
water and sewer.
Okay.
The SRF is strictly sewer.
Okay.
So lead service lines is water.
Got it.
And you cannot commingle the two.
Okay, so we could not update our plan to include, thank you.
No.
And then, so there's nothing we can do about the cross connections either then? So, okay. I think that I might be done now.
Ms. Burns, would you like to have more time?
No, thank you. I have finished everything. They're gonna get me what I need, and I can read that my leisure.
Oh, that's right. Don't forget
Okay.
the things I need from you. Thank you.
All right, so I just want to make sure, are all the, you know, I'm the money person. They do all the other stuff, I'm the money. So when we talk about our personnel and the vacant positions, are all of the vacant positions budgeted? Okay, so they are all budgeted. And the operating, you guys were talking about the root system removal, whatever, there was something to do with roots. I couldn't find it in the budget. Could anybody point me to it in the printout?
Well, it's in capital.
Oh, it's under capital improvement, so I'm not gonna see it on the detail, right?
No.
Okay. I received a phone call yesterday about 3 houses with, that, the trees have been trimmed, but the roots are still getting into the basement and stuff,
The
backing
roots
up.
continue to grow.
Yep, they do, as long as the tree is still living.
Let me explain that, if you don't mind.
Sure, because that I get several calls about that.
So a lot of times, what the residents don't understand is the root control only controls the main.
Okay,
A lot, so you know the main, and then the residents, you got you guys' lines tap into our line.
right,
So preventative maintenance has to come from them. If they know they have a tree, I would suggest you do preventative maintenance. You know, if you know you have major roots, get them cut out and then try to do preventative maintenance from there. So it's nothing we can do, like the residents will call, or they'll call you guys. It's nothing I can do with roots in a house lead. That's something they have to do. I can only deal with the roots that goes through the main.
and my house was impacted by roots from the main. And you guys actually had a plan where they came out on a routine basis and made sure those roots were clear. But I haven't had any problems with water since my tree was cut down. So, it was one of those beautiful ash trees
Okay.
that died from yeah, very sad. So that was one of my questions, and I wanted to know that. The capital, it's such a big drop. That's because some of the projects are completed between fiscal year '24 to fiscal year '25. And I'm just looking at water right now, because that's what's up on the screen.
Let me know when you want me to switch it to sewer.
Just a second, let me look at sewer. Sewer goes up to 90, but we have a big project that we're doing, right?
Yes, well, just trying to get our MS4.
Right.
The MS4 is the most important thing right now for sewer.
All right, and that's gonna come out of the capital part.
The water pollution control team has a large capital improvement expenditure for what Ms. Best spoke about, the
yeah.
force main that needed rehabilitation.
Okay, that makes sense, and I just wanted to make sure that had been discussed. But other than that, they did so much good information and they had such good questions, my colleagues did, on so many of the operational issues, and the money follows that. I just wanted to make sure that all of the personnel was budgeted, and that we were giving you and getting you what we can in order to serve the residents of the city, and that we can afford. Because these funds are supposed to be self-supporting. There's not much, we can't much allocate money to you guys from the general fund, am I correct?
Correct.
So, it's unfortunately, this is part of the money issue, and yeah. So anyways, I'm gonna thank you guys for coming. I'm gonna let you have your evening back unless anybody else has any questions. Ms. Winfrey Carter, did you have any other questions? Okay, thank
We
you.
want to thank you all. Appreciate it.
Coming to work with me tomorrow?
Wait a minute, she said she was a chemist. We need a lab supervisor. No.
Teach you chemistry with the shovel.
I'll show you pi r squared with no problem.
We have a 10-minute break between hearings, so we're going to cut this live stream off, and we will start a new one at 7 o'clock.